Supernatural ended on a great note in season 15. However, ever since the ending, fans have been asking, what if they made a 16th season? What would happen? What would be the driving push, the story? And how would Sam and Dean come back into the fold of the story for season 16? Well, in today's episode, I am going to ask that question and maybe even try and answer it with a few of my own ideas as to what could possibly happen in a 16th season of one of the greatest shows of all time, Supernatural.
Carry on my wayward son.
Hey, fellow Cortanas, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Cropivian, and so what would happen if Supernatural got a season 16? Well, it would be an interesting reboot, I think, because how would it work? How would you make it work within the realm of Supernatural and where they left it off in season 15? Would you try and squeeze in a story between one of the early seasons? Or would you try and get Sam and Dean out of heaven and keep the story moving forward for season 16 and possibly even more seasons past that? So I have a few ideas as to how that could work. And it's kind of interesting because you don't really know whether a 16th season should or should not happen. In my opinion, they left it off at a great point. They tied everything up really nicely in season 15's finale. But I want to open up the door just a crack and see what everyone else thinks about these possible ideas that I have and the way I see a possible new story going. Season 16 would have to somehow bring Sam and Dean back, if that's the way that a 16th season would go. If Sam and Dean were still going to be the main focus, the main driving point behind a story in Supernatural, you'd have to get them out of heaven. Well, how would you do that? Well, Jack clearly doesn't want to put his touch onto too many things on Earth or any other part of any other Earths. He wants to let things be. So how would something that would be such a threat that the angels or anybody would bring back Sam and Dean? I see one way this works. Castiel. Castiel would have to rebel again against Jack and bring Sam and Dean back from heaven. Now, a lot of you might be saying that's going to be tough because both of them got Hunter's funerals. Well, yes and no. We've seen angels do some pretty crazy stuff before, because remember, Adam was also given a Hunter's funeral, yet he still came back. And while it took a lot of juice, I think Cass may have been given just enough juice to do it. Now, what would be the driving force behind Castiel bringing Sam and Dean back? Well, I have one idea that's really just interesting, and it's been rattling around in my head for a long, long time. Legion. And not just Legion, but maybe a character that Legion has to partner up with, or maybe has a romantic story with, or maybe a brother or sister relationship with, where you take kind of the Croatoan virus and what was happening in Roanoke and in that little town that we see in season 2 that gets affected as kind of keys. There's a secondary idea behind the Croatoan virus, and it ties back to the Azazel story and the Apocalypse story, but it's bringing it forward. If the Apocalypse never happened, what else could the Croatoan virus be? Well, what if there was something that was in each of those places that the demons found, and in order to get to the spot, they had to infect the entire town, as well as testing out whether or not Sam is immune to the virus. Whereas the Roanoke colony would have had to have been just a test, one for the virus and also for an artifact that the demons are looking for, because they're trying to unlock Legion. Now, Legion would have to be one of the many things that doesn't really get it talked about early on in the seasons, which we've seen that Legion gets mentioned, but it's more in passing, not really as a physical thing that is out there and possibly a very big threat. In this case, Legion would be a demon that has literally went on and consumed and still can consume a lot of demons, and has garnered a power that is unmatched almost among your typical Princes of Hell or any other kind of demon. So then you tie that into a story with another creature from Purgatory, who was also a demon, or an angel maybe, but fell in love or was a brother and sister relationship with Legion. They got locked away into Purgatory and got twisted by Leviathans and everything else, to the point where they became almost like a Lucifer-like character, except more Cthulhu-like. The idea of Cthulhu has always been really interesting in the realm of supernatural, and the fact that we've never actually seen a kind of a take on Cthulhu in Supernatural's lore as a big bad, I think it would be very fascinating. It wouldn't have to be Cthulhu himself, because Cthulhu, to take Cthulhu away from the H.P. Lovecraft and turn it into a supernatural lore, you could do it, but a lot of people would be questioning why. Now, the thing is that if you were going to go down this route, how do you end it? Well, there's one or two ways that you could possibly end it, or maybe even three ways. That is, one, you somehow bring back the cult into the fold. You know, go back in time and somehow bring it forward. We've seen that before in Supernatural, where, like the Phoenix, for instance. The Phoenix, there was still knowledge left at Samuel Colt, and he picked up the Phoenix Ash and sent it, or had it stay at the Pony Express until it was time for it to be delivered to Sam, Dean, and Bobby on the date that was on the package, so that way they could kill Eve. So it could very well make sense that they could bring the cult back from the future or the past. However, we've seen what happens when something is brought back from the past and it changes a lot of the future. That could be a driving point in season 17, if there would be a season 17. That's not the topic of this video, though. For season 16, there would have to be a lot of ebbs and flows, more than usual. And in this case, we've always seen, every single season, Sam and Dean have been at each other's necks about something. Whether it's been somebody's not telling the other one the truth, or the entire truth, or is just going behind the other brother's back. In this case, it would have to be Sam and Dean are so fed up with Castiel, they were at rest. They were done. It was over for them. Now they're brought back, so now they have to drill Castiel and have a big go with Cass. Now, of course, Jack comes into the fold because they have to figure out how this is going to work with them being back. Are they going to do this one thing and then go back to heaven, or are they going to stay for a lot longer? Then, if we are going to do season 16 in a way that keeps the story of Supernatural moving forward, you have to bring in Sam's son, Dean Jr. Somewhere along the way, the Impala comes back with Dean Jr. Dean meets his nephew for the first time, and it's a whole different line. of work for the Winchesters. Now, it would be kind of like a season 4, season 5 kind of feel where there's just this driving force, or maybe, you bring Legion into the fold, and then at season 16's finale, you bring in this other character from Purgatory who's locked in this emptiness of Purgatory and by these chains and everything. And then for season 17, we drive it forward with both Legion and this other character. Other ways you could possibly bring back Supernatural for a 16th season, maybe a hybrid is on the loose, and the only way to deal with it is to somehow bring Sam and Dean back in it, or follow a completely new hunter. One other way, bring in the African Dream route, where a Jinn has maybe enhanced it a little bit, and it goes on for a year inside of a dream world for either Sam or Dean, or one of the other characters, and they have to figure out in the real world how to snap them out of the dream world. I think that would be actually a very interesting way of doing it. Maybe something similar to After School Special, where we've seen Bobby do it before when he was a ghost in season 6 or 7, and he rides a hotel maid for miles with the flask, and maybe something like that, except instead of being more vengeful, maybe they're out for something for themselves, again, to, take over the whole world thing, or do something different, open a door, whatever. I keep hearing about people wanting a season 16. I personally think that we got 15 seasons of Sam and Dean Winchester. Every single person that was a part of that journey for those 15 seasons, they all had a very important piece to the story, and they all ended, some bittersweetly, but others ended on the right note. I think it's good. I think we can let it rest for now until, years later down the road, there's either a movie or a reboot to the TV show with whole new characters. If they remake it, that would be the wrong move. But if you're going to continue it with Sam and Dean, I don't see that you could squeeze in between any of the seasons, because they all very much go through the seasons whenever whether Dean's in Purgatory, Sam's for a year off with Amelia. Okay, fine. That's covered. We don't need to go too in-depth into a whole year in between seasons and sandwich a whole other story when there's a whole other, like, apocalypse or the Leviathans or anything else going on at the time. So it just wouldn't make sense to sandwich in another story in between any of the early seasons. You would have to find a way to continue it after season 15. And if you're going to continue it with Sam and Dean, you're going to have Kaz or somebody bring them back. Now, whether or not that's in the form of Jared and Jensen, or if it's more like a spirit possession for Sam and Dean, and they come down in different bodies and then different people play them, that's a little touchy. That is taking it a little too far, because there's only 2 actors on the face of the planet who can play Sam and Dean Winchester, and that's Jared and Jensen. But, yeah, I just wanted to come up here and, in my Supernatural 20th anniversary celebration, or Supertober as I'm calling these, I just wanted to give my 2 cents in on what I think season 16 could entail, and whether or not we really need a season 16. No, we don't. But if we do, there's some ideas. And hey, if it happens, great. I'll be there. I will always be there to watch some more Supernatural. I love the show. It is my favorite show, bar none. But I think it's left off where it needed to leave off, and what happens after that, I think it's going to be good. Whatever spin-off or reboot that they may make to the show, I think it'll be just as important as Supernatural itself. Like the Winchester season 1 only season. That was a very good show, by the way. Sad that it didn't get a second season. But that is all for this video. I thank you all so much for watching. If you like this video, go ahead and leave a thumb on that like button. If you want to subscribe, go ahead. It'd be really cool of you. Or if you want to leave a comment on your ideas for a possible season 16, go ahead and leave them down below. I always love hearing from you guys. And always remember to imagine your dream, create your happiness, and live your life on the edge. And I will see you in that next episode. See ya.